Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at Jamer Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live here on Facebook, drop your questions or comments for myself or my guest in the comment box, and you'll see me check from time to time. So feel free. That's what the live show is about. So you can reach out and speak to us live. After almost 6 years, I am welcoming back to the Food Enthusiast Show Chef Elizabeth Falkner. Our last chat was August 2020, and we were in lockdown, surviving COVID. Elizabeth has been busy in these past 6 years. She made a film called Sorry We're Closed, a real look and chat with chefs from all walks of life and how they were coping with the situation. Meanwhile, as Stephen Colbert's shtick would say, Elizabeth has been a moving force for equality in the food industry and elsewhere. She is both a trustee on the board and chair of the world famous James Beard Awards. Both she and her partner have created a date spirit called Tomorrow. There is more. If she isn't riding her bike 300 miles for No Kid Hungry. And she and Chef Ben Ford are part of a Condé Nast getaway to Puglia, Italy in May 27. She's always busy, always going. Let's welcome back Elizabeth here to the show and to the US, and I will explain that momentarily. Let's bring in Elizabeth. Hi,
Hey,
Elizabeth.
hi, Dara. How are you? It's so nice to
I'm
see you.
It's nice to see you. And how's your ankle? And tell the people that you were a klutz in Italy.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think of myself as being very klutzy, which is probably the hardest thing I've had to deal with.
Right.
But yeah, I was cycling, spending about a month in Austria recently at a distillery, learning more about fruit distilling because of the spirits company. And then I was on a cycling culinary trip, which I do with a company called Turismo, which is based in Italy, and they do a lot of cycling, some hiking tours, and then they do some chef-led culinary cycling tours. So we were in Emilia, the region of Emilia, which is where balsamic vinegar comes from, Parmigiano
Right.
Reggiano, so many different pastas. It's from Bologna to like Piacenza. So we were cycling in that beautiful region and tasting everything and having a great time with this really cool group. And the second to last night, I was just walking with the group through a medieval village, and I slipped in a weird way on a cobblestone in a big cobblestone. It wasn't like the little patchwork of them. It was just there. It was like a riverbed basically, and I just kind of went the wrong way, broke my ankle, had to have surgery in Turin, or otherwise known as Torino. And I had a great ortho surgeon, had to recover for about a month there because so much inflammation. But I'm back, and I'm working on all the exercises that my doctor here has me doing, and soon I'll be able to walk around again.
Well, since you are the sort of founder of Staying Fit to Cook, you were always in great physical shape. Had you not been, I don't know how worse that would be. But if I'm going to recoup, I think recouping in Italy is
Well,
one of the better places to
this is a
recoup.
double-edged sword though, because all my friends were sending me messages about, well, there could be worse places to be than Italy, but it's kind of torturous to be bedridden in Italy too, because you can't, here I am in the spritz capital of the world, where vermouth has been invented, and Gianduja in the Piemonte region, and I can't really go around and see all these famous places. So, I'd look at everything on my phone and be like, how close is it? Can I order stuff from them? But I have to say, I had asked the universe for more time in Europe this year and more time to write. And I got that I wasn't very specific about being, not with broken bones, but I did get that time. And, we all know that like life in Italy is a little bit slower, but this was a different lens of that being slower. And I still appreciate it.
You know, I when I reached out to you because I figured you were locked in Italy, that maybe I'd get you back on the show. But you've made it back to the States, but I thank you for agreeing to be back on the show. I was trying to think where I became aware of you, not when we met. And
Because we've
for
known each
some
other for a long time, from like WCR
women
in the
chefs and
early days.
restaurateurs, yeah.
Yeah,
I was the one that actually got WCR on Facebook.
that's
I
right.
was,
I remember that.
and then they shut me out. I
Well,
went, okay.
that wasn't when I was there.
I know, no, because you're my bud. Um, but when you were at Citizen Cake, did you do some sort of spread in food and wine with other chefs and Eric Repair was in the picture?
Oh goodness. Well, I've been in Food and Wine a couple times, a few times,
But it was
but
like up and coming chefs, and I think it was a fold out.
you might be thinking of, was it Food Arts? Could have been Food Arts too.
Could have been food arts too.
Yeah, because that was a cool publication, and I had a really nice feature in Food Arts at one point. But gosh, that was like probably I want to say 2008 or something like that, 2007 maybe.
It was probably because you had Citizen Cake. That's was
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, those were, the days of so many print magazines too, and I feel like I was very appreciated and fortunate to, be in a lot of those print magazines, which I still have copies of, and of course my mom has all the same copies of.
Yeah. I saw she was following the Instagram. I got to meet her in New York when you chaired the WCR conference.
That was
That
the
was a
best.
that was the great conference. And
Yeah,
some you had us on the rooftop
at Sleep No
um,
More.
at but there was a live stage in the same building. And in order to
Yes.
get out of it, we walked down the steps and it was like this live performance. We're walking on the stage during the live
Well,
performance. It's like,
yeah, that's like one of my favorite, all-time favorite interactive theatrical productions. It was called Sleep No More, and it was at a place called the McKittrick Hotel, but it was in fact just a stage in a three-story hotel with a bar and restaurant on the rooftop, several bars on the inside, and you could go in. Um, Obviously, they have events there, but you could go in, and the theater was the best part. If you never went to that, it was, if it ever comes back to New York, or I don't know if it's still running in London, but it's a very cool production. I've probably seen it like 6 or 8 times, and you run around after the actors as they run through different spaces, and you're allowed to look through props and things and try to and it's based on Macbeth. So it's a fantastic setting, you know.
it was just unique to come down and then we were part of the play. We're on the stage.
Yeah. I remember that. Well, because I had been there so many times and then somehow, well, that was right when I would pretty much moved to New York. So I must have just been obsessed with it and asked them if we could do an event up there.
Yeah.
And but I remember that. It was very cool. I was very
Yeah.
happy about that. We did a lot of cool stuff. We did a great event with Charlie Palmer too. I remember that. And yeah, those were good conferences.
Good conferences. Yeah. I remember you had a container of caviar and
Yeah,
you were
well,
hitting
that
everybody with
happens. That
yeah.
happens when you get a bunch of chefs together.
Yeah. Um, so I want to talk about your movie, but what's interesting, have you seen this on Instagram or TikTok? There's a trending thing called Netflix documentary trend, where
Mm.
people sit there like they're making a documentary and they pretend. You'll
Oh,
see.
I have seen a couple. I didn't know what it meant. So now it's nice to have an explanation of what's
Yeah.
going on.
Okay, so they pretend to make a documentary, but you didn't pretend. This is what you did. We touched on it on the previous interview, and I'll just let people know there's going to be a link to the earlier interview that I did with Elizabeth in this. I keep losing this right now. Um, so let's talk about your movie. Sorry,
Yeah.
we're closed. And I'll just say this to folks before we get into it. It is available for free on Roku, Tubi, Fandango, Zuma Play, and Hoopla. You can get it on Apple and Prime Video for a fee. Don't want to miss it. It was, how do I put it? It was so emotional in trying. It broke your heart, and nobody, because you love the industry and you love your friends who are in the industry, and what it means, that shutdown. We didn't know what was going to happen, nor did they. Um, and I just remember the apocalyptic, because I can't say big words, seeing that you had shot in the movie of Times Square and Rodeo Drive. There was
Yes.
nobody there.
Well, let me just tell you a little bit about the making of it because we started filming. I mean, Pete and I had talked about making this film, around January 2020, about checking in with chefs and what they were doing to stay fit. Obviously, I'm really into fitness, mental health, just like sort of taking that temperature of people in the all parts of the restaurant industry. And but when the pandemic hit, I was started making these little tiny short films to post because, I was like, well, how can I still talk about food and blah, 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 and in this crazy time. And then I had, all of this news information coming, bombarding all of us, 24/7. And then I was like getting so many crazy messages from colleagues saying, this is so stressful. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to put food in a box. I think I have COVID. I'm not sure what to, and then Floyd dies, Chef Floyd
Yeah.
Cardoz, who's, a friend of all of ours. And so I'm like, Pete, we have got to go out and make this film now. So we headed out here in LA, um, starting with Nancy Silverton, the day after Black Lives Matter protests started on the streets. So what a weird landscape of like, everybody's still like afraid. We're trying to wear masks and film this thing, but we're not really technically can't really go inside the restaurants because, nobody was doing that. And we're trying to understand, I'm having these chef to chef conversations with people, all different kinds of restaurants, not just James Beard award winners and Michelin starred chefs, but like mom and pop places, just like all different kinds of cuisines, just all, the landscape. And then, and what I like about it so much is that it's not a journalistic approach. It's really these chef to chef conversations. And then, I would know that and we didn't want to waste their time. We didn't, everybody was just scared. And then here we
Right.
were like, small film crew, like going out on the street and going, well, there, like we didn't need any permits because there was nobody there. Like we would go out on Hollywood Boulevard or Rodeo Drive and there's just, everything's boarded up and so it was, I mean, from a film perspective, it was a very unique and special opportunity. And then same with the ability for me to reach out to all these chefs and say, I only need like 30 minutes of your time, but everybody was available. But this is like unrealistic. Like nobody could ever do it in the time frame that we shot it. And
Right.
then same thing going up to the Bay Area. Of course, we have some great, super talented people, and I used to be in the Bay Area for so long. Um, from Tanya Holland to Alice Waters and Chris Cosentino and Matt Acarino and Brandon Jew, and there's like so many of my favorite chefs too, and just great little sound bites from all these people. So we're kind of threading the story as we go. I don't feel like I have to ask them the same questions, and it's just kind of weaving in and out of it of what the dialogue is. And then we, wait so we make sure we don't have COVID, and we fly to New York and we interview like 20 chefs from New York and New Jersey. And New Jersey, I wanted to reach out to because I have a lot of chef friends over there, and they don't get enough as much attention as New York. So, and then we did have some virtual conversations, which fits the timing of it all too, because we're all getting all this information on computers and devices. And then I was just so hyperly active in the entire editing process. And it did take us about a year to finish editing and getting the sound and the film, the music and all that stuff in. And I have a background in filmmaking from college, but this is my first time I've actually been so involved in a documentary feature. And I did the process was excruciatingly challenging because here we couldn't even go to an editing suite live. So we had to do so much stuff virtually. So, there's a lot of really unique challenges in the film, but the way it came out and the collective voice of all these chefs is everything to me. And it's definitely this other story kind of came out of how I had to close my restaurants in San Francisco, which we weren't even expecting. Pete just kind of like threw me on the spot at one point, and I was really stressed for everybody. And I was trying to help everybody. And it's basically a love letter to the restaurant industry, the independent restaurant industry.
In hospitality.
Yeah.
Yes. Just for those who might not know, because the young'uns don't know from what's going on other than a year ago. You had an award-winning bakery hash restaurant called Citizen Cake, and then you did another restaurant which was Orson. All is to Orson Welles, so it's sort of homage. And the crash 2008 took it all down.
Yeah.
And it was very emotional for you. And if they see on screen, and I think at one point you said, you don't want to be a restaurant owner, you just want to be a chef.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's fun, interesting because I was working on my writing skills, like when I was still in New York. So besides those restaurants, I opened a couple restaurants in New York. And then I started doing more consulting. And here I was the president of WCR for a few years. And then, I've really kind of like talked to so many chefs along the way who have, established restaurants or trying to get into the business. And so I feel like I've kind of been coaching a lot here and there with younger people. And yeah, I've kind of experienced a lot of the gamut of
Right.
chefing and cooking and stuff. And so and working on my writing skills all these years since then, I've really kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's a question, something that I've had to wrestle with, where people are always asking me if I'm going to open another restaurant. And if it's a normal question, of course you associate chefs with restaurants or bakeries or whatever. But there, in fact, there's a lot of different ways to approach cooking. And I think that we kind of touch on that in the film too, where there's people are having to reinvent how to do restaurant business.
Right. Absolutely. It was, and the chef careers grow and change. It isn't just you. I can see it with a number. I maybe 5 weeks ago, I had Jimmy Schmidt on.
Yeah.
And he, was early on James Beard winner. And just to let people know, James Beard Award came from the people that were involved with Cook's Magazine, and it evolved from there, which I
And
didn't
has it
know that.
evolved? It's amazing.
And so Jimmy Schmidt, and this is some of the things that you're doing. I mean, he went into, doing work for Atkins, creating foods for them. He also worked with the Corvette Le Mans team for 12 years and creating the food for that. So careers, I've evolved. This is, if you told me I was going to be doing this live show, when I was working in a clothing shop, when I was 19, I would have gone, no. So the evolution, and I see that with so many of the chefs. And I want to talk about, I mean, we're going to get to tomorrow, which is your date palm spirit. We're going to get to that. I want to talk about James Beard.
Sure.
Okay. We mentioned people who will be listening to this because it will be on video. WCR was Women Chefs and Restaurateurs. And it started, I guess, before the demise, maybe 25 years beforehand, where women chefs, it was a different life in restaurant kitchens. It was hard, it was difficult, recognition, how they were treated. And that's what Women Chefs was, to bring these women chefs to know that there was somebody there to support them.
Yeah.
And if I look at James Beard going back to the early days, never really saw a woman chef. It was always the guys. It was always New York. And part of what's happened with James Beard, and I know you're part of it, is you left WCR, you got involved with James Beard. In fact, WCR sort of merged with James Beard.
Well, Let me clarify this.
Okay.
So, because I was the president of WCR, and then or I guess it was about the year before COVID, they asked me to come back and be the president again because I had been on the board for, I don't know, 10 years. And I so I came back and stepped in as the president with a well, sort of just temporarily. But when we started looking at the last fundraising that we had done and the whole landscape, uh, and literally like 2 weeks before the pandemic hit and shut everything down, we had all had a meeting in my apartment building in Brooklyn, got my whole board together, and we were in the black, even playing field. And I just, between Amanda Cohen and Kelly Fields and Karen Akunowicz and Tiffany Faison and I and the rest of the board, we just all just said, like, enough is enough. This is such a competitive landscape to fundraise in. And thank God, because we didn't have to try to survive through COVID. So like we just
Right.
decided to wind things up. We had some challenges with executive directors over the few years, and then it just was time to stop it. And I was like, I was so stressed about like giving up for Barbara Tropp and Joyce Goldstein more than anything. And then, but the board was like, no, we're good. Like, and had already been having conversations with James Beard Foundation and involved in the scholarships. And I just said, they have women's entrepreneur leadership programming now. So they are doing so much more than they did when Barbara and Joyce and the whole gang started WCR. So it was the right thing to do. And then it was very reassuring that it was exactly the right thing to do. And then JBF later asked me to join the board of trustees.
Well, I can see, what's been done there to be broader in who is involved. And I think there's a new trademark, and there's something that you do there now, Taste 20, Taste America series.
There's so many great programs outside of, I mean, the awards are what JBF is really known for. And believe me, the James Beard Awards have dramatically changed in the last 5 years. I mean, it was always really cool. I went to them in New York. I was nominated in 2005 for Outstanding Pastry Chef. Um, and then here, fast forward, like 40 years later, I love it so much because you mentioned all those male chefs in the early days being recognized, but Nancy Silverton was actually recognized as one of the early, her first James Beard Award was Outstanding Pastry Chef in, I
Well,
think, like
she just
1991.
got one this past year.
Yeah, I know, we just awarded her the Lifetime Achievement Award, which was fantastic because, Nancy's like, I'm not old and I'm not going anywhere. So she's like, I'll just pretend this is my first one. Definitely not her last. But I want to say that the James Beard Foundation does so much more work in food policy. Um, we have so much other programming. We really recognize all of the talent in the United States. It's very different than 50 Best or Michelin. Um, I think that awards for chefs are great anyway, but I really think that getting a James Beard Award or a nomination is such a big deal because we don't just recognize a certain style of dining. It's all kinds of voices and all kinds of
Right.
styles. And that's my favorite thing about it.
Well, I think that there's a new trademarked uh, thing that they're doing. It's good food for good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good little phrase.
Yes, it is.
And it's
And
true. And we have such a great staff. It's a nonprofit, where we're constantly raising money and finding partnerships. But it's really recognized as just, everything that's going on in the food space in America, which is a challenging space. Think about all the big companies and all those small farmers, and they're all related to what chefs are making.
right. And I think, the trend is, I think consumers are more and more becoming aware of the independent restaurant because they're getting a better quality food. And it was Brian Choi of the Food Institute recently talked about trends. He says the next generation of flavors is global, which is a very big thing with James Beard. Um, Natural, unprocessed foods. That's what you're going to find in independent restaurants.
That's right.
Regenerative agriculture. This is all part and parcel. So there's a boot camp, there's a chef's boot camp. It's what you do, recognizing farmers and people that are supplying restaurants. It brings a lot to the surface, and definitely diversity, which maybe when it started
Wasn't so much that. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But I know you must have been crazy because you're in Italy as these awards are going on.
Yeah.
And I bet you were the one scheduled to give Nancy Silverton her James Beard Award because you worked with her at Mazza.
Well, I had just done an event at Pizzeria Mozza right before I went to Europe. But yeah, I mean, this is, since I chair the awards committees, it was hard not to be there in person. I really do like the whole festivity, the red carpet, the just hearing everybody's acceptance speeches, and hear the governor and the mayor of Chicago were there. So it's hard not to be there, but I did watch the whole thing on YouTube, and anybody can watch it. And I watched all 3 of the awards, and meaning like we have media, and then we have the restaurant and chef ones, and then of course this lifetime and humanitarian, those kind of awards. So yeah, it was hard to be over there and miss the whole thing, but I actually really enjoyed watching the whole thing on YouTube too. So
well, you got to experience like us lay people who can't make it to Chicago for
right.
the big party.
And they did a great production of it too. So it's like it's quite it's impressive.
Look, for those who don't know, there's Academy Awards, there's Emmys, each for a different segment. This is the big hoo-ha for food. So it's the Oscars for food, James Beard, and I know I feel better that you're there putting your little touch on James Beard and working.
Well, I have to say, the thing that I missed the most, I mean, I love being around the people, but it's being in Chicago in early June, which is always a nice time of year there. I mean, it makes you want to live in Chicago because you're like, I could live here. It's not January, but
well, the last time
but
I
the
was in
food is so
Chicago,
good. It's such a good food town.
Yeah, we went to. There was a island type restaurant that you recommended, and I can't think of it. I went to that, and I just remember you and I and some other people went down to Italy.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
We
I
were
think we
lucky
went to Monteverde. Probably.
I don't know. It was like island food. I can't think of some obscure island food,
Oh,
more Asian.
okay. Oh, I don't know. Now, sometimes the cities blur to me too. It's like, I'm like, was that in DC or was that in,
And they were written up in Food and Wine, I think, afterwards, whatever. So, but I remember that and I went, oh my
Well, it's
God.
hard to keep up with all these chefs and restaurants, because obviously things evolve and people move on and they open other restaurants, and that's another good reason to check out James Beard Foundation, because there's always, we have our programming. All the chefs remember, older chefs remember cooking at the Beard House, which was James Beard's townhouse in the West Village,
Right.
which had so many challenges to cook in. I mean, it's still a cool property. It's a historical property, but what we do now is program all of these chef dinners at Pier 57, and this is a state-of-the-art kitchen. It's right, it's near, it's like if you go over to the water's edge of the West Side Highway, it's across from Chelsea Market, and it's one of those piers. And I wish the city of New York would grant us signage on the outside, but there seems to be some port issues or something with the signage. And but it's a very cool space that's been renovated, and we've got curated small operator food stalls with some really cool things. They're like all the little things in there are really. There's a little Sahadi's, which is a very cool spice shop down the street from where I used to live in Brooklyn. And then we have this amazing state-of-the-art kitchen and dining room for our James Beard dinners. And so chefs are, we constantly have programming there. You can go to the James Beard Foundation and look up who's cooking next week or next month or whenever you're going to New York. And I highly recommend it because it's a very cool space and a really nice way to introduce yourself to different chefs.
I remember I did make it to James Beard house for an event. I came up, one of our Baltimore chefs, or a number of them, were doing a dinner. So came up, and I know came up for the day, spent the night at my sister's pet a terre, and went home the next morning. It was great.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And it's like, we know there's so many great restaurants in New York, but this is a cool, sometimes you'll have a collaborative dinner, chef dinner, like you've talked about. Or sometimes you'll have some state that you're just not familiar with the food or what. That's what's so fun about it. So many different kinds of cuisines. And it's all like, I'm always trying to keep up with the up and coming chef. So this is a good way to stay on the pulse.
Absolutely. So I don't, you and I can talk a lot, but I do want to get to your third endeavor during lockdown, which was Tomorrow's Spirits, which is a date palm.
It's actually
spirit.
date. Yeah, it's the dates fruit.
Right. And just to let you know, I zoomed up to the fancy food show last Sunday, and I don't see the bag.
Oh yeah. Very
Okay.
cool. Yeah.
So Saudi dates were everywhere.
Well, dates are very much trending right now in all kinds of food products. And the health benefits of just eating dates is, it's got lots of fiber, antioxidants, and potassium. It's a great lower glycemic sweetener. And this is why when I met Heather like 4 years ago, we were talking about specifically Amaro or Amari, plural. And we were in Sicily and we were talking about, I was like, I like Amaro and I especially like it in cocktails. And I'm like, but as a digestivo, it makes no sense to me today because they're often very sweet to counter the bitterness.
Right.
So I'm sure that over centuries that, when you look at Amaro and stuff, infusion liqueurs, I mean, we've been vermouth and is just a wine-based version. We've been doing this as human beings for a long time because it really kind of used to be our medicine. So I think that some of those bitter herbs and barks and spices and stuff obviously they have health benefits and they have flavor. And so, people figured out a long time ago, oh, we put all this stuff in there, keep it in a base of sugar and alcohol, and it makes people feel better. Little tinctures and bottles that some, monk or old school doctor might have, maybe a witch gave would make you feel better. And so I like that history. I like how they became very popular, especially in Italy. But I was like, why does nobody use dates to sweeten it? Because it makes so much sense to me. And here I'm somebody who's worked in all different kinds of sweeteners for different companies for a million different things. And I had just come off of making a formula for a company called Behave, which makes extremely low sugar gummy bears. And they're available in lots of places, but it's called Behave. I don't own that company and I don't run the company, but I came up with that formula. So when I met Heather, I was like, I've been doing this and I've been using some other alternative sweeteners, but I really like to get back to the basic stuff of like honey and dates. And I'm somebody who loves brown sugar, molasses, dark caramelized notes, and I like chocolate. So if you're going to give me candy, that's the kind of candy I'm into. And so that I was like, I think that dates would be a really good sweetener. And here Heather's been working in alcohol beverage her whole career. And she's like, that's a great idea. So we start getting to work on it, do a massive amount of research and testing and tasting with people, and came up with a really fun formula. And then we we made our first runs about a year and a half ago. And so we have, and in that process, we discovered how to make a date brandy, basically. So like a date spirit, which tastes more like somewhere between a smooth tequila, grappa, and rum agricole, because here we are using dates. So our brand is called Tomorrow. It's T''Maro. It's a play on words, mean made today for tomorrow's world, because the sustainability piece of it is very important to both of us. And what's in the bottle, super important, because we only use pure botanicals, date sweetened only. And then it's just like the Amaro, the spirit is just 100% organic dates. By the way, these are all California dates. So a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people in California don't know this, but we're the second largest grower of dates in the world here in Southern California. So our desert produces a lot. And we have those
Coachella Valley.
beautiful medjool dates. And ours is a mix of medjool and deglet. And then we also make a chocolate liqueur with single origin cocoa nibs from Ecuador, and also only date sweetened. So all three of those products, very special. We make a unique one just for Costco, Northern California, called a chocolate work orange, based on the flavors of one of my old cakes from, not an old cake, a cool cake from Citizen Cake. And so anyway, but made today for tomorrow's world, the root word is tamar, which means date and date palm in ancient Hebrew and Arabic. So it's something, and our labels are made from upcycled palm fronds that were headed to landfill. So we go to a lot of effort to just make something very special, and especially for today's palate.
Right. And didn't it just start making its way to the East Coast? Isn't it in New York now?
Yes, we have it in New York and New Jersey now, and soon Illinois. And I mean, Heather's, she's this amazing in sales, been in alcohol, beverage, spirits, and fine wine her whole career. So she's got us already in Bevmo and Whole Foods, and I mean, lots of those big retailers. And we also have it on Reserve Bar, so they can ship to other states. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Reserve Bar is something that's like more and more online curated liquor store, basically. And then we have lots of, we're in lots of restaurants, so more and more bars and restaurants and hotels, and we're working on getting even more of a presence in the East Coast too.
Right. Just to tell people, if you can see how to spell Elizabeth's name, put a .com. That's her website. That'll link you to everything that we've talked about, but numerous links are up in the comment section for you. And I think I worked it out with Jen, the producer. We're also going to put a link to the interview we did almost 6 years ago, just to see how things have evolved.
That's cool.
Right. I'm just checking. There's so much here. I went back and I got myself updated on everything you're doing, but there's so much more that I don't know. And just people follow her on Instagram. This degree in filmmaking comes through on her Instagram post. So you want to do that. What did I want to say? Oh, we talked about Nancy Silverton getting the award. We've talked about that. Let's talk about the Condé Nast getaway to Puglia.
Pasta, Pilates, and Puglia. This is going to be so much fun because, I've done a lot of chef-led tours with different companies over really since the pandemic. I mean, I've always been a chef who's traveled, and I've gone to some amazing places in my career. I mean, I was invited 25 years ago to teach classes in Japan for 2 years in a row for California walnuts. I've studied cacao chocolate in Venezuela in the early 90s. I've been to lots of different cacao growing regions because of my obsession with chocolate, really. And then I've also been to Italy so many times, and France, and I mean, I've just done so many cool trips. And I've also been in a lot of parts of Asia. I've been to Thailand and China. I went to China for a month with Yale University when I was doing some work with the hospitality team there, right before COVID, actually. And so it's one of my favorite things. I love being in a new place with new culture and tasting everybody's food in the real place where it comes from. And It always inspires me to cook differently. I mean, it's just the best education. So, in I guess it was like 2020. Well, it might have been fall of no, 2021. I did a trip to Sicily with one group, and so it's like a chef-led tour, but I don't have to coordinate everything. So I've done that. I've done these cycling ones with Turismo, which I love. I've done quite a few different ones. I've been a lot of times I'll go to Italy because I love Sicily so much, and Napoli, and because I won a pizza competition in Naples in 2012. So, going back to Naples this many years later was fantastic. And then anyway, I just love exploring with people. It's kind of like,
Right.
you're going on a tour with me with a chef lens. So when I was I'm good friends with Chef Ben Ford, who's another chef here in Los Angeles, and his girlfriend is also they own a Pilates studio in Beverly Hills.
Oh,
Sounds
okay.
fancy, but it's just a cool Pilates studio. And I'm friends with them, so I've gone. I mean, I love all the different sports here. I've been, athletic my whole life, but I really love Pilates at this age in my life. And so one time I was in the class with Drew, is her name, Ben and Drew, and I said, all I can think about, because I was talking to this Castillo, this castle in Puglia, and they were like, we want you to come teach some classes and blah blah blah. And I was like, that sounds amazing, but I was like, we have got to go over there and do this pasta uh, Pilates in Puglia trip. And Drew was like, that sounds fun. So we kind of put our heads together and came up with this week um, of just instead of us traveling all around. I mean, we have like some day trips and stuff because it's a really beautiful region. It's really a spectacular part of Italy. It will be my first time there. I know a lot about it. I know a lot about the food. It's a lot of seafood. It's really specific pastas, as it is in everywhere in Italy. A great wine growing region. It's where burrata comes from. So we thought, and I said, one of my things on these trips that I normally do is like, I really need to exercise while I'm eating this much.
Right.
So that's why it's like, okay, we'll start out the day with some yoga or Pilates. And believe me, it's not going to be like reformer Pilates, it's mat Pilates. And depending on, where you are in your life, Drew is a really good instructor and is just, it'll be so much fun for all of us to do that together. And then also, go shopping with me and Ben, cook if you want to with us, or just come to dinner. And we'll do some, wine tastings and olive oil tastings and learn some of the pastas. I mean, it's just one of my favorite things to do. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
I saw pictures on it. It's Pilates or pasta and Pilates.com, isn't it?
Yeah, pasta and Pilates. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's pasta and Pilates.com.
it is.
That
Yes.
that one I might not have, but the links will be on Elizabeth's page and you'll find it. Um, oh my, okay, time is getting away from us. So,
We could chat all
um,
day.
yeah. Well, what
I wish we
happens
were
after
having
you?
some food while we were talking. That would be even better.
Food is my core. What can I say?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Every time after I wrap a show here, I go get something to eat.
Yeah. Well,
I
you're a little ahead of time for me. You could probably have a glass of wine, but it's a little early for me for a cocktail right now.
Well, what can I say? I'm more food oriented than I am drink oriented. I, in fact, I don't even do coffee because I get the bitter out of it too much. I'm just one
Mm.
of those people. So a good glass of ginger ale with crushed ice makes me happy. And, a little bubbly here and there, but I don't know. I just never got into drinking, or it could have been that wood grain punch in college.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that probably would do
that
something.
might have turned me off.
I
Might have
have to
turned me
say
off.
that in both Austria, I spent a good month in Austria cycling and working at this distillery. But what I really noticed, and it makes sense, it's that close to northern Italy there, but and same in obviously in Piemonte, the whole northern Italy, is that people drink so many spritz besides Aperol spritz. So like I was just telling Heather about this cafe that was conveniently close to one of the hotels I stayed at when I was having to keep my leg up and recover. But it was I wanted to try all these different spritz because they all sound so interesting because there's so many more vermouths made there than I've ever
Right.
seen. But people even in Austria, like people drink just a lot of spritz and like the Ferrethofer distillery that I was at, they um make this amazing, delicious, very unique product called Mostello, and it's like pear brandy mixed with
Oh,
pear wine because it's a huge pear growing region, and it's aged in oak like port is, but it's a pear version, and I'm telling you, it's like one of the best things I've ever had, and it's perfect. Just a couple of drops. Same with our Amaro. It's like you would like that because you just put like a tablespoon or a teaspoon of the Amaro. You're not getting all the alcohol and you're just getting a little flavor.
right.
And then you put it with some club soda or maybe a little bit of sparkling wine and it's refreshing. It's same
Sounds yum.
concept of all these different kinds of spritz. So, and I know a lot of people want lower ABV stuff these days, and this is a really good way to enjoy something very special and not artificially flavored or colored.
Right. It's funny. I went to the River Pavilion at the Fancy Food Show, and that's where all the new emerging companies are. And I can't begin to tell you how many different types of mocktails.
Oh, I know. Believe me, I know.
And I sat there, and there was the 17-year-old kid came out with something for Campari. I can't think of it. He put himself as a chef at 17 that he worked and he created. He's 17 years old. I went, okay,
Well,
you're
I
a
think
chef.
employees only
Keep
started that
losing. Yeah,
bar chef.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to get to some of these questions and I need to let you go, but maybe we won't wait 6 years again.
Okay. That sounds like a
Okay.
deal. Yeah.
And let me know when you're passing through Baltimore because nobody ever stops here, but
I
I'll
will get
jump
out.
on the train.
I will get out that way soon.
Okay, okay. All right. What's the best bite you've had all week?
Um, I know that the best bite I've had all week was what I made for dinner last night, which was tacos with soft, delicious corn tortillas, but with poblano, like roasted poblano chili, sauteed with onions and corn. And then I had some char roasted sweet potato, a little tomatillo, smoky tomatillo salsa that I made to put on the sweet potato, and then a little bit of, California avocados. It's half the reason I moved back here from the East Coast. So fresh and spicy. The poblanos were spicy and all that together in a little taco. Killer.
Killer. Okay. If you wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would the new talent be?
Well, I think that it's one of my talents from the past, which is I would have, had I known that women's soccer was going to be such a big sport, because I played till I was 40, which was about the time that it rose so much more in popularity. I
Right.
watched this great movie the other day, a documentary made by Venus and Serena Williams called Copa 1971. It's such a good documentary, and it's about this women's team that played World Cup in 1971 in Mexico City. And I've, met some of the famous soccer players over time. And I love that sport so much. And had I had the opportunity to play, I mean, I'm not sure I could actually play professional soccer, but had I known it was a possibility, I might have thought about it because I love sports.
I know you do.
And I'm much more of a get out there and do it person rather than just watch them.
Got it. Got it. All right. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, we could be going back to the soccer thing or maybe something else.
Oh no, I know what it is. It's I have a brother. I have two brothers. One of them's 2 years younger than me, and I went surfing for the first time about 5 years ago in Hawaii. I was doing Hawaii Food and Wine, and I met somebody on the plane who was, a former women's basketball coach, and she said, "Oh, I just train people how to surf now." And I was like, "Wow, I would love to go do that because I've just always been so intimidated." And I was telling my brother, I'm like, "How stupid that we were so intimidated by other kids in our, high school or whatever growing up, that the surfer clique was not really my, I kind of like knew
Yeah.
some of people, but
Yeah.
would have been way too intimidated back then to go out and surf with those cool kids, you know? And I'm like, that's what I would, my tip is to not be intimidated by something that might be, you know, life-changing.
Yeah. So you learned to, to surf in Hawaii.
Well, Hawaii is a good place to learn because the water is quite nice. And so is the surf. You know, you can like, that's why Honolulu
But
is Honolulu.
yeah, I think of the waves. A cousin of mine, Eric, who's a photographer and does a lot of things, photographs the big surfing competitions, and I
Oh my
look at
gosh.
those waves and I go, oh,
No way. I know. Yeah,
yeah,
but it's, you know, just
that's what I'm
getting up on the
picturing you
surfboard and
learning on.
standing there is, you know, something. And nobody wants to look like a fool, right? And so anyway, I had so much fun doing it. So hopefully I can do that again when my ankle's better. And
I'm sure you will. If
yeah.
anybody can recoup, it's going to be you. All right, two things that are a must in your refrigerator.
Well, I have a lot of condiments. I mean, I just have a lot of condiments. When I went away, I cleared out my fridge as much as I could, and I still have a lot of things, you know. But I would say the two most important things that I really kind of have to have are lemons. I mean, I have to have lemons. I don't think I would survive without lemons because I put lemon zest in almost everything. It's so nutritious. Half of the nutrients from lemons are coming from the skin. Um, and I need that little brightness. And
Right.
when I say lemons, I also mean Meyer lemons. And you know, a specific varietal that I love very much. And but I also have to have like Pecorino or Parmigiano Reggiano because yeah, it's one of the best.
Right.
Both of those, you know, Pecorino coming from sheep's milk, Parmigiano Reggiano coming from cow's milk. I just got some of the red cow, you know, the very special Parmigiano Reggiano in Amelia and brought it back. And it's just so tasty. And it's, like I love how they have Parmigiano Reggiano um in that region in Amelia or Pecorino. I was in Sardinia last fall with one of these groups, and actually same Turismo, and I had so much Pecorino there that I couldn't. I mean, I would just want to take it home with me, and I'm like, gosh, but the next farmer's going to have another one that's even better, and you know, you can't really travel with all this cheese, but
Yeah,
man,
they
God,
don't.
it's so good.
Yeah, they don't like you to bring cheeses in, the soft cheeses.
Yeah. Well, these are like, you know, firmer cheeses and you know, the salty kind of cheese.
Right.
Love
It's
that
not
stuff.
good. Right.
You never make it home with some fresh sheep's milk ricotta.
No.
But
No.
that you
No.
can't beat that either.
No. Um, what didn't I ask you that I probably should have?
Well, let's see. Definitely one of the best drinks I've had would be because you know, we talk about best food bite, but since I'm somebody who makes spirits now too, you'd have to ask me what you know, one of my favorite drinks.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I had a spritz, wasn't this week. I would say our using our Amaro in a spritz is a really good idea. But I have to tell you about this very unique spritz I had in Vienna when I was just leaving there. And I was at a really nice, cute little restaurant, vegetarian. And the spritz I ordered had beet juice and a little bit of sparkling, probably Gruner Veltliner, because that's very common there, and um, you know, club soda, and just like a little half wheel of lemon. And it was so refreshing, that beet with the acidity from the wine and just but all that club soda on ice. So delicious. And it reminded me that I actually think I did something kind of similar years ago when I was doing a swords and knives class, because you know I do Korean sword fighting, which is a whole other conversation that we'll have. Um, but I was doing a cooking classes where we would do a little bit of a workout with kendo, iado kind of wooden swords, and then we would do. I think you did one with me before, but and then I had like juices and stuff after. And I remember making like a horseradish beet juice, garnished with rosemary and some club soda.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else before we
I could
wrap?
talk about food forever.
Okay. Well, I'm just dealing with people's attention span.
Yeah,
Well, we can do this again. Maybe catch up in a year.
let's do it.
All right. Because I know you're going to be doing some wild shit. Excuse my originality. Thank you
Lots
so
of
much.
adventures planned. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for
Thanks,
coming
Dara.
back and sharing everything with us, and good fortune, good health. And I'll see you in a year.
All right. Sounds
All
good.
right. All
Thank
right.
you.
I have a couple of announcements to make, folks. So let me put on my readers, even though I put it into large print. All right. Next week's guest is a 3 times James Beard Award winner, David Leet, a food writer, cookbook author, memorist, cooking teacher, podcast host, and founder of Leet's Culinaria since 1999. Leet's Culinaria is where David blends his love of food writing and cooking to create a space that has become a haven for food lovers. In my numerous years being food focused, David Leet's Culinaria and podcast Talking with Your Mouth Full has been a joyful and fulfilling indulgence. His 36-hour chocolate chip cookie recipe in the New York Times is legendary. So I look forward to having David on. If you need to reach me, my Instagram is @DaraCooks, and on Facebook, The Food Enthusiast. Feel free to go back into our archived shows. Go to janemoreliving.com. On the food column, you'll find The Food Enthusiast, and all 291 shows will be there for your edification and enjoyment. And don't miss out. You can sign up for the bi-monthly food newsletter there as well. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. May your plates always, always